I'm going to be very brief. My bill's not in front of this committee, but I just want a word of caution. We've heard a lot of testimony this evening, but basically, Rhode Island has to join the other states. We had 3 states several years ago when I started introducing the CPI index to minimum wage. This way, we do not debate this anymore. We allow the government factors, Department of Labor, that issues a report every March of every calendar year. It tells us what the CPI is in the Providence-Warwick region. 20 states currently today have CPI, but 8 years ago, only 3. What they're doing is taking the politics out of the minimum wage, using real numbers, real data. Right now, Rhode Island ranks 13 out of 50 states at $10.50 an hour. If we raise the minimum wage to $1, we would be probably in the top 10. But basically, we're just going to be very cautious. We should look at probably maybe even having a study commission to really debate the minimum wage. Every year, this becomes a political football, especially during an election year, where we try to raise the minimum wage without looking at talking to small businesses in our local communities. I read an article the other day in Sacramento, California. Dozens, if not hundreds of restaurants are closing because of their impact of a steep increase of the minimum wage. So I think we should be cautious, look at what the data says, whether it's going to be $11 an hour or $11.10 an hour or $11.50. Look at the data of what the increases have been. The other issue that wasn't mentioned is our cities and towns are going to suffer. Now, we're fighting on aid to education, waiting for a new Senate formula to be revealed, to fight for maybe $100 or $200 or $300,000 in our communities. But if a steep increase in the minimum wage is adopted, cities and towns have to pay for labor. Summer jobs, labor not under contract will have an increase. As you heard earlier, workers' comp is going to increase. So we should also bear in mind the increase in the minimum wage has other factors to our local cities and towns. So let's be very careful and not to join the Joneses like Massachusetts going to $15 an hour by 2024, or even Connecticut. For example, and you mentioned the state of Michigan, when you look at the state of Michigan, they're a very labor-friendly state. They've already, in their statute, passed a law that their minimum wage in 2030, they adopted CPI, and in 2030, their minimum wage is not going to even be $15 an hour. I have in front of me, by 2030, their minimum wage is going to be $12.05. They did it the smart way. They calculated the costs, extended it out to 10 years, and increased the minimum wage every single year by using CPI. We should be joining the other 20 states and use CPI, which is a real number. And also, lastly, Mr. Chairman, I also agree that we should use January. We've been raising the minimum wage the last 5 years, maybe even longer, since I believe the last increase was in 2013 continuously, other than last year where we had no increase at all. It was stagnant at $10.50, and shame on us. We should have raised the minimum wage last year. It should have went up at least 2 to 3% instead of being stagnant, debating it amongst ourselves. So basically, I think those are points that I like to make, and hopefully when my bill is in front of you next couple of weeks, I would share additional information. Thank you.